These are 3 episodes where Fry was tortured to death. Starting with the time Fry was forced into an asylum, which had awful consequences. Talking about pension plans with the crew, Fry decides it's a good idea to start investing his hard-earned money, pulling out his life savings from his sock.
Still only $100.
I'm sorry, Fry, but you're gonna need to invest a little more than $100 to retire. Arriving at the bank with Bender, Fry opens up a retirement fund with the last of his money. Waiting in line, Bender reconnects with his old robot friend Roberto, who suddenly pulls out a knife to rob the bank. Bender is unfazed by the situation as he helps carry the money. On the other hand, Fry is worried about his life as Roberto demands him to get the door, giving them both a pile of money for their troubles. Roberto flees the scene right before the police show up and arrest Fry and Bender, leading them to stand trial in court as accomplices to the robbery. After losing the case in court, the judge decides to send them both to a robot insane asylum until they are mentally fixed. Fry and Bender enter the hospital where they undergo a physical examination, but for robots. Bender is enjoying his time while Fry is tortured. He is immediately beaten up by machines and almost killed by a drill. Falling through a hatch into the doctor's office, Fry is electrocuted multiple times as he tries to explain he's human and that he doesn't belong there, but the robot ignores his request. The nurse walks in on them and pulls Fry away with a straitjacket, carrying him to his cell where he's introduced to his roommate who has a fatal problem of exploding under stress.
Pleased to meet you.
Actually, we've met once before.
What?
At this rate, Fry will be dead by the end of the episode. Bender walks over to Fry, who's completely exhausted, asking Bender if he could help him prove he's a human and not a robot. But being Bender, he is of no help. Lunchtime in the cafeteria is even worse for Fry, as he's served crude oil while being pushed around by the other inmates. Bender thinks this place is wonderful, but Fry disagrees.
Don't you understand? I'm gonna die here.
Quit your belly aching and take it like a robot.
Fry and Bender meet back up with the crew during visitation hours, but are told that there's nothing they can do to save them. Fry starts to beg Professor Farnsworth to help him, but is told to push through the pain. Yeah, there won't be any pain to push through if he dies, but thanks for the advice, Professor. At nighttime, his cellmate gets released from the asylum.
What a surprise! Look, I barely exploded at all.
Unfortunately for Fry, he gets a new roommate who got him there in the first place.
Roberto, what are you doing here?
And for some reason, they allowed him to keep his knife, which he uses to practice his stabbing on Fry, causing him to actually go insane. The next morning, Fry gets released to the crew, but something is a little off. They find out he's completely lost his sense of humanity, thinking he's a robot himself.
He's a human being, not a machine. Oh, Fry!
Beep, 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 beep.
Bender, on the other hand, is still doing time in the asylum when he bumps into Roberto, who explains his plan to escape. Just like before, Bender unknowingly helps him as they make a run for it.
Quick, let's keep escaping.
Arriving at Planet Express after being released, Fry works on his purpose as a robot, struggling to find what he likes to call his primary function. That asylum really did a number on him. Layla tries one last attempt to remind him of his humanity by giving him a big kiss on the lips, but ultimately fails. Chugging beer on the couch just like a robot would, Bender, he passes out. Bender and Roberto end up back in the city where he tries to rob the same bank again. Third time's a charm, I guess? Yeah, maybe not in this case, as the police were prepared for the attack.
Fire lasers! Duck! Lasers!
Somehow, they manage to run away to Planet Express, where Roberto takes the crew hostage as the police arrive, tying them all together. Fry wakes up from his nap, still thinking he's a robot, saying his primary function is to be a battle droid to protect the weak from crazy robots.
Let's see how much of a robot you really are!
Fry gets stabbed, but is protected by an oil can. Roberto backs up in fear, throwing the knife right at him and cutting his arm. Fry does not stop, causing Roberto to jump out of the window and fall right into the hands of the police. Fry releases the crew only to feel pain from the cut. He comes back to reality, finally realizing he's human after all.
You've got the heart of a robot.
Aw, thanks, Bender.
Just like inside me, I've got the heart of a human.
But that isn't the only time Fry was suffering from pain, as one time his lover Leela was punished for his heroic act to save her. Professor Farnsworth interrupts Bender and Fry practicing golf as he explains how their next mission is cancelled because they're not good enough. On a side note, this might be the first time I've seen Bender and Fry doing any type of sport. Farnsworth says the last crew he had was far more experienced than them, and that they were brutally killed on the mission, which was to collect honey from vicious space bees bees who caused instant death from a single sting. Leela's ego gets the best of her as she forces the crew to take the mission anyway. Flying through space, Fry, Bender, and Leela follow the bees and arrive at the beehive, landing inside. Before leaving the ship, Leela sets Bender up with a new outfit and voice box to distract the bees in case of an emergency. They carefully walk inside when some of the bees spot them. Bender quickly distracts the bees as they sneak by. Going deeper into the beehive, they reach the old Planet Express ship, finding a black box with the voice recording of the previous crew.
Oh, the professor was right. We're not as good as his old crew. It'll take more than a few deadly bees to... Oh, Lord!
Leela turns it off when she hears the bees killing the crew, saying there was too much static. Ignoring obvious signs of past failure, they push further, crawling through a tunnel where they find the honeycomb hideout. As Leela sucks up all the honey, Fry slips off the edge and falls into it. Unable to swim, Leela grabs him out when they find a baby queen bee floating in the river. Leela grabs the bee, explaining how they can make their own beehive and create honey themselves back on Earth. Bender grabs the attention of the bees and accidentally calls their queen fat, causing the queen to initiate an attack on them. Fry and Leela use jetpacks to fly out of the hive, while Bender follows them holding onto the queen bee's stinger. They get to the spaceship and prepare for liftoff, but it's stuck to the floor. The queen bee tries to sting the ship with Bender on her, who jumps off just in time as the ship takes off. The crew believes they have escaped all danger until the queen bee wakes up. Without thinking, Fry jumps in front of Leela, ready to defend her. Leela gets up and kneels beside him, realizing Fry sacrificed his life to save her own, with the stinger stuck inside his body. Everyone gathers together to hold a funeral for Fry. Leela is visibly shaken by the experience, haunted by the enormous amount of guilt, believing that his death was all her fault. That night, Leela is in bed as her emotional state starts to deteriorate. To ease the pain, she takes a spoonful of the honey, causing her to fall asleep and dream about Fry waking up in his casket.
Before the accident, I couldn't do this.
In the dream, Fry says he's alive, telling her a secret to prove it, saying how he hid a present for her in his locker back at the office. Before she could open the gift, Fry tells her to wake up. Back at work, Leela tries to convince the crew that Fry is still alive, opening the locker to find nothing. But then Bender walks by counting the money he got from pawning Fry's stuff from his locker. He gives her the gift that was in her dream, opening it to find a Cyclops squishy toy. Professor Farnsworth performs a little experiment on her brain, stating that Fry's dead and nothing can bring him back. Leela starts to go insane over Fry, as she has another dream about him going on romantic dates and adventures together. Towards the end of her stay with Fry, she truly believes he's still alive. Fry says in order for her to convince the crew he's alive, she needs to wake up.
Another dream! Fry's jacket!
Heading in for work, Leela comes in with the evidence, only to reveal that the jacket was hers all along. She tries to calm down by eating more honey, but accidentally knocks it over, spilling it all over the couch. And out of nowhere, Fry is reborn from the honey, not knowing what just happened to him. They get into the lab where Farnsworth examines him, stating how his DNA was implemented into the honey when he fell into the river back on their mission, regenerating his entire body back to life. Leela is so glad he's alive, only for him to tell her to wake up, cutting back to the couch where she fell asleep. I'm not gonna lie, I really thought he came back to life this time. Leela tells the crew she's going insane, and they randomly start singing a musical, which honestly is well choreographed. Coming back to reality, Leela flies out to space searching for Fry and finding his coffin, opening it up to reveal some sort of dimension. She immediately wakes up in bed with the crew telling her she killed Fry over and over. Depressed about losing her sanity, Leela takes a lethal dose of the honey to be with Fry in her dreams, but he stops her right before the third spoonful, talking to her through a picture. Bees start swarming her room as she sits in bed, not understanding what's happening.
I don't understand what you mean!
Just wake up, please.
Leela wakes up in a hospital bed with Fry by her side, saying the stinger went right through him and all the poison got to her. Everyone else walks in the room telling her how Fry never left her side the whole time she was in a coma. Waiting for Leela to wake up must have been torture for Fry. Even more so when Leela was put in a coma after crashing the ship onto Earth, leaving him to cope with his feelings. When Professor Farnsworth is working on an experiment, Fry walks into the lab asking why his body is covered in severe burns. What did he do this time? Mr. Farns explains that they were in in a space battle, running away from the law. Right after plunging into a Panama wormhole, as he likes to call it, the crew cheers on, thinking they escaped. But right after, the enemy catches up to them, landing a laser shot on the ship. Leela loses control of the ship, telling everyone to brace for landing, and activating their safety spheres, only to realize Farnsworth has the only one that protects his whole body. Crashing right next to Planet Express, everyone's body was destroyed except for the professor's, showing Fry what happened.
Are they dead? Oh, no. Much worse.
The crazy scientist dumps all the skeletons into a pink liquid pool, trying to use stem cells to regenerate the crew, who he got from killing perfectly healthy people. He is definitely crazy. They end up slipping out of the pool, including Amy as he slaps her cheeks.
Ooh, baby soft.
Indeed.
Okay, maybe a little freaky too. One by one, we watch as the crew piles on top of each other. Bender comes out, but he's dying, so Farns shoves a doomsday device inside his body, saying how he'll explode and kill everyone, including himself, if he doesn't stop dancing to burn off all the energy the device emits. Last but not least, Leela slips out of the pool next to Fry, who is worried because she isn't waking up.
I'm sorry, Fry, but I'm afraid Leela is in an irreversible coma.
Fry walks around town, seeing signs that remind him of his lover until finding a build shop, where he rebuilds Layla as a robot. Bringing it back home, the crew helps him redesign the robot with Leela's real memories and looks.
Size 12, etc.
Brace for emergency landing!
She comes alive and instantly makes out with Fry. Where's that shop again? I mean, asking for a friend. Leela doesn't remember what happened to her after crash landing on Earth, until Nibbler bites a part of her skin off, exposing her robotic insides.
It's me, Leela!
Freaking out at the sight of her arm, the crew shows her the real Leela lying down in a coma while Fry tries to comfort her.
The only thing I truly know is I love you. I mean her. Wait, help me out here.
Later that night, they end up at a disco party as Bender dances for his life, literally. Fry and Leela have a deep conversation about their relationship, saying she must take a break to figure things out. Man, even as a robot, Fry gets friend-zoned by her. The next morning, Farnsworth conducts one final experiment to wake up Leela from her coma. Fry goes berserk and starts beating her with a bat, screaming at her to wake up until Robot Leela stops him, telling him it's all over. After figuring out Leela won't wake up from loud noises and bat swings, the crew travels to a faraway planet for her funeral. There, they read off Leela's will, which includes sacrificing her body to an endangered beast that only eats Cyclops. Unable to stay still due to a literal bomb in his chest, Bender dances while beatboxing, causing him to burp out flames, and wakes up the real Layla as she tells him to shut up. Looking off in the distance, she sees Fry and Robo Layla making out with each other. Just before Leela can make up her mind on whether or not to beat herself up, the monster arrives, chasing them back to the ship and latches on as they fly away. They return to work where the two Leelas argue back and forth before confronting Fry, scolding him for his actions and running away. Later that night, Fry talks to himself about his true motive for remaking Leela as a robot. Hidden from sight, Leela forgives him after secretly hearing his story.
As long as Robo Leela's not a jealous type like me, things will work. I'll kill you, you slut clops!
Suddenly, Robo Layla appears and attacks her. The crew huddles around as Amy gives Fry a laser gun to shoot the robot, but as clumsy as he is, he shoots himself in the stomach, only to expose he's a robot too.
I'm a robot too! Aha! That explains this growth on your drive shaft.
If this is what doctors are like in the future, we're all screwed. Not understanding how he's a robot, Farnsworth explains the true story of what happened the day the ship crashed, saying how Fry made a heroic decision to save Leela instead of himself. I am starting to notice a pattern here. All that was left of Fry was a chunk of his hair, so Farnsworth tried to regenerate his body in the pool, but unfortunately failed. Leela was so distraught that she built her own version of Fry as a robot, but in the process, she accidentally overstuffed him with too much copper wiring, causing an electrical explosion as a hug, destroying her body and leaving Fry's body, well, fried. Back to the present, Fry gets reborn.
Hey, where's my shoes?
The robots open up about their true feelings for each other, ripping apart their own skin.
Hasta la vista, wiener. We'll be back.
for our stuff.
The real Fry and Leela have a romantic moment with each other until Bender stops dancing and starts uncontrollably shaking after listening to the two lovebirds reconnect. After that, the Cyclops enters the room looking for his next meal, chasing Leela until turning towards Bender as he loses an eyeball, devouring him in one gulp right before Bender explodes in his neck. And of course, he survives, walking out of the monster's mouth, heroically saving the day. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out my other videos related to Futurama. But if you didn't, you can bite my shiny metal ass